Hello and welcome to YTV. Today we are joined by current YCC President Matt Guido. Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt.
Great, so happy to be here.
I know you can't endorse anyone specifically, but what specific qualifications do you think a YCC president must have?
I think commitment is a huge thing. I think it really is kind of like your main, not only involvement, but a main part of your junior year. I think also someone who genuinely cares about the issues, and that might again seem very kind of obvious, but someone who's not going to be afraid to kind of roll up their sleeves and really get down in the weeds about kind of past policies related to an issue, kind of current student sentiments on the topic, what people across campus think about it, and really engage with issues from a lot of different perspectives.
Do you think the candidate should have been in YCC before?
I don't necessarily think you have to be in YCC. I think, to a certain extent, it'll be helpful. I think, one part of the job is definitely, working with policy and working with admin to, advance, certain types of policy. Another part of it is actually managing the entire organization. And that includes, everything from spring fling committee to events committee to all the different class councils. I think institutional knowledge of YCC is helpful. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I think it definitely, will strengthen a candidate and kind of set them up to succeed earlier on.
What are the three main issues that you hope the next YCC president will spearhead?
Yeah. So I'm going to start out with a really, really broad issue. And this is something that we've talked a lot about as a council this year. We've also talked with Dean Shun a lot about. It's just more broadly the residential college experience. And we hosted a town hall a few weeks back. And I think Yale is really at a point where, lots of students are moving off campus. Nearly 40% of seniors, are choosing to make that move off campus. And kind of thinking about, what are the best parts of our residential college system and what parts of it need to be improved. I think financial aid is definitely something that is going to continue to come up. Early on this year, the Domestic Summer Award was definitely a huge bonus for a lot of students and really changed the way I think a lot of people are approaching the summer internship search. I would say third and fourth issue that people will definitely have to talk about are sexual climate, kind of obviously given a lot of the campus conversation recently, as well as mental health on campus.
You talked a little bit about that town hall discussion that was made about the state of the residential college system. In your opinion, what is the single most important thing that Yale can do to prevent students from choosing to live off campus?
Yeah. Well, I personally think dining is a core of the Yale residential college experience. And I think the fact that, Yale doesn't really provide you with many late night dining options, I think is very much, for a lot of students, the tipping point when choosing to move off campus or not. So I think more needs to be done, I think, personally by Yale Dining to provide more flexibility for students and more options for students, particularly when it comes to when the dining halls close.
At that town hall meeting, Dean Marvin Chun offered an idea related to late night food option expansion. The idea was to close down one residential college for hot lunch each semester on a rotating basis, and then open up one dining hall till 10 p.m. as the trade-off. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I definitely see the pros and cons of the solution. Like I said, I think when dining, in my opinion, I think a lot of students' opinion is, one of the cores of the Yale college experience and of the residential college experience. Kind of shutting down one college's lunch is definitely not equitable for the colleges across the board.
Is there a specific proposal that the YCC has gotten behind?
So we see the pros and cons of this proposal because of, the creation essentially of late night dining options. But I think if we were to, change the solution and essentially keep all 14 residential colleges open for breakfast and lunch, and, still create that late night dining option, perhaps instead of, cutting down lunch, perhaps closing breakfast in a couple of residential colleges, which are a bit less traffic than lunch. And from talking to students, I think, I think they're definitely more comfortable with breakfast hours and resources being moved towards dinner. I think that's something that we definitely are in favor of, definitely more than this lunch solution.
Well, I'd like to turn to another topic real quick. One issue that I think often differentiates candidates during these YCC elections is how each candidate proposes going about reforming how the YCC operates and how it can be structured to best enact change. Now, one of the policies that you proposed was reorganizing it so that instead of 24 projects per year, there would be 6 project teams of 5 to 6 YCC members each that would focus on high priority issues.
Yep.
However, the YCC website indicates that there were 16 reports for fall 2017, 4 of which have not been published on the website yet. Why didn't the reorganization into 6 project teams ever happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So essentially, when I came into this position with my ideas, so did the other members of our e-board, right? And essentially, kind of the solution that we worked out was to keep first semester more similar to traditional YCC structure, where we produce the policy reports, in higher volume, kind of similar to past years. And one of the reasons we really did stick with that for first semester was actually through some of the feedback we received from Yale administration and a number of the deans during our transition meetings last spring. They really stressed the importance of these reports that have student data, that include peer institution research, and even though they might discuss like a more narrow topic such as like shuttle routes or keeping dining hall hours open for study time later at night, they definitely kind of had the depth that was needed for these administrators to kind of go a step forward and bring them to a committee or bring them to like a higher level of administration. And over the course of the second semester, we kind of transitioned into kind of like a semi-idea, very similar to that campaign idea, was these more broad issue-based groups that engage in more broad issues.
One issue that has received a lot of attention at Yale this year has been the issue of sexual assault on campus.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that a couple times. I wanted to ask, what has YCC proposed specifically to address this issue?
Yeah. So essentially the stance that the YCC has taken is really to get as many students in the room as possible who are connected to these demographics at Yale as also connected to this issue, and really get them talking about the subject, as well as connecting them to administration. So we haven't put out any specific proposals for what the administration should adopt in order to fix sexual climate at Yale or improve it. What we've really tried to do is work with administration to help them think through the best ways to connect with students, particularly student leaders who are connected to this issue in a lot of different forms.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Great.
From everyone at YTV, thanks for watching.
Thank you.